You can change one thing on Arena, in brackets, not the economy. What's your choice? You can pick one thing, but please explain how you think it would improve the Arena experience. I personally would like the ability to host casual lobbies in a fighting game style. I think the ability to run it back against certain opponents, or to just constantly play with your friends in a King of Hill style, would make the game feel like more of a gathering in the client. I posted this on Reddit a few days ago and got a ton of responses. So I want to go through them now and see what the general consensus is on what people would like to see changed or improved on Reddit and other stuff on Arena. So, first point here. In MTGO, you could right-click an ability and choose to always pass on it. This would make things run a lot smoother. 100% agree with this. The always yes, always yield and save target is one of the biggest things on Moto that I wish was on Arena. For those who aren't aware, so for example, I used to play Soul Sisters years ago on Moto when I first started, and Soul Sisters trigger every time a creature enters. Now, just for expediency, you could just go in and say, auto stack, always yes, always yield, because some of the Soul Sisters were May. So yeah, this would make things run a hell of a lot smoother. I don't think we should tick off things that... It's strange. It is weird that is not a feature on this, because it's one of the best things on Moto. But yeah, 100% agree. That would definitely improve the Arena experience. Let's move along here. The opinion to ignore repeated trigger resolutions for this turn. If I get pop-up requiring me to acknowledge an effect, I understand it and I am aware of how it will play out. I'd like the ability to say, I don't think I need to see this window the next 20 times. Just make it an auto, taking responsibility for outcomes and such, saving time. This is basically similar to the previous thing. It would, and I think his way of saying this here is a lot better. For example, if you're doing, say, the cat combo loop in Pioneer, you should put you could literally say, until the end of turn, pass on all Cauldron Familiar triggers. Like, right click on the trigger and go, always pass this turn. That way, then it would obviously be on the opponent's clock to do things. Yeah, it's another good opinion that would make certain play styles run smoother on Arena. We allow custom draft lobbies with friends. Not much more added to that, but I do like the idea of a custom draft lobby. I've said before, one of the things I personally dislike about the limited environment on Arena is, particularly with the style it's done. So on Moto, when you go into a draft lobby, you go into it with those 8 players and that pool of cards and those packs, and you play. So it's basically restricted draft style. One of the things I hate about Moto is, Arena, is when there's a draft format is half solved or whatever, you'll go into the 7-game queue and you'll play against other people who've drafted random other drafts, and you'll just run into the best decks, particularly if you've won a couple of matches. It's like, hey, this is the meta deck of the draft, and now you're playing the meta draft of the gaff again and again. I would like an enclosed environment where it's just those players from those drafts with those resources in that pool to play. And I think the ability to make a custom one with your friends would be very good, particularly with the push now of 2-pick draft. I think restricting it to 4 players would be way easier to do. Also, I will add into this one, there's no reason in my mind that a draft like that, a custom lobby thing, shouldn't be 3,000 gold. If you're just playing in that pod, no prizes, just 3,000 gold, go in there and draft, because that's you buying free packs. But that's moving on to economy, so we won't go into that. Alright, moving along, we have if love to shop the store being... love to stop the store from being highlighted for some reason whatsoever when I just spend the orb on the mastery pass. Seems like it's been this way for a year now. Yeah, so that's more of a cosmetic thing. It is annoying, but what that is basically every time there's a new item in the shop, every day there's a new deal, it will be highlighted until you go in and look at the daily deals. So, I mean, that makes sense that you don't go in the shop, but that's a nice feature that I don't think is too broken. We have Add Pauper. Now, I'm going to just straight up say this. This is a terrible take. What you're saying here is Add Pauper. The format on MTGO or in paper, where there are a trillion cards which aren't on Arena, and we know they will never put on Arena. And if they did put on Arena, it would be a Pauper limited pack, or a Pauper everything's so rare you've got to craft a wildcard for. You would play Pauper Light, and as someone who played Historic Light or Pioneer Explorer Light for years, it's not worth it. You will basically just... You'll be playing bad standard. It won't be as good as the format you remember. So that would not improve. Also, having another sub format on Arena, I don't think would work. Alright, our next take. For new players, a campaign. User retention on the app is dreadful. You get dumped into the store and maybe forced through some flavors of Sparky. People have soft requirements to like MTGO before they stay. Maybe if MTGO put some effort into showing people why the original sets were interesting, they could bring it up. I'm not talking a full 20-hour clickfest, but a hook to get them going. I think that would be pretty good. I remember years ago in Duels of the Planeswalkers and things like that, where you could literally play through a little story where they were based on the core sets. So like Duels of the Planeswalkers 2014, you followed Chandra and had little cutscenes of her giving you missions to go fight certain decks and certain characters. I think that would be a great inclusion, like a little thing. Like, I mean, obviously they could do so theory crafting here. If they did like Lorwyn we're currently in, if they did a Lorwyn story of you going around with the students, like you had to play with the student card in certain decks like that, be good. Go through the story of the set, you know, more a way to tie the lore of Magic to Arena to give new players a taste of it. I think would be a very good inclusion, and also a good retention thing, because if you go, this was one of my personal grievances with when I tried Duel Masters Yu-Gi-Oh, was they literally were like, yeah, now you just go play ranked. We've taught you nothing about the game. Now MTGA has a good way of introducing people to the game and teaching them the basics. But I think having stuff that they could just do casually, because jumping into ranked against other human beings is pretty intimidating if you are totally a new player. So I get that. Okay. Also, would be really cool would be just imagine like instead of a color challenge, like little cutscenes of you talking with the Planeswalker, like you talk with Chandra or Liliana, and they give you a mission and you go fight specific avatar characters with their decks. Okay, let's keep moving here. I want a share deck option. When playing ranked, the player can toggle it on and off. When on, an opponent can download the deck list after the game is over. Yes, 100%. I would love this. I wanted this on Modo years ago. The ability to, like, because I play a lot of ranked, when I come into a brew deck, like if I'm recording, I try to piece it together and try to remake it, sometimes if it's a cool deck. But damn, I would love that. I think that would be huge. One of my content creators back in the day I talked about this, where he ran into a guy playing a token storm deck. He'd never seen anything like it. He loved the hell out of it, but because it was in MTGO League, and he literally had to message the player and get the list, which was really good. Yes, I think that would be great. I would love a way to share more deck, because I can imagine a new player playing against a deck and being like, you know, say they only know aggro and they come up against a deck using a cool interaction they've never seen before. Giving them that option to be like, hey, would you like to download a copy of this guy's deck into your collection to see what it's like? New players would hammer that. That would also introduce them to new playstyles. Yes, this one is probably one of the best takes, I think. Would definitely improve Arena. Even, yeah, let's be real. Instead of that stupid, did you enjoy the match? Smiley, frowny face. Just imagine if it pops up and goes, would you like to download a copy of your opponent's deck? Yes, I would. Okay, moving along. Strict bans for people who constantly rope when they are losing. I agree with this. I'm saying that it should be the style of, best example of this, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had a unique system where you had a connectivity bar. So, not just a bar, but you had your connectivity bar and you had a symbol under it that went from gold to skull. And if you consistently played, like if you played all your ranked or your casual matches to completion, game over or wins, you would see a gold bar there. And then the gold would go down to silver if you disconnected a few times. Then if your disconnection rate went to a certain percentage, you'd go into bronze. And then eventually you would go into skull. And what would happen is you would play against people with those connections. So what would happen is if someone was being a salty loser and being like, nah, screw this, I'm losing, I hate it, and they quit the game, then they'll go back in and now they're in the skull section. And then they get to a match where they're going to win and, oh no, the guy quit, I didn't get the win, that's not fair. It was great at weeding out people, and it made, like, there were obviously problematic people, but the people who were half and half, like, people got to the point where it's like, oh, it's not worth roping out a game here because I'm going to be punished for it. And, you know, people say, oh, that's punishing players, you'll get bad thing. No, what it does is it creates basically a tier list where you'll get people who will go down and be like, oh my god, this is so frustrating, why is this happening? Oh, it's because I rope a lot. Well, I'm going to stop roping. Then I'll rebuild my thing and go back up, and I won't deal with it again. And you'll get the bad apples who are like, I'm just going to keep roping, I don't care. You're roping, I don't care, I'm quitting this game. And let's be honest, if we lost them, would not be a great loss to Magic. So I don't think bans necessarily, but I do think a punishment system for anyone with a high consistency of roping. Okay, let's move along. Make the initial timeout faster. For a player that joins and then literally takes 0 game actions, then times out. I agree with that. Like, the amount of time between, like, it still annoys me, like, how long it takes for a rope to start with an opponent literally not with looking at their opening 7 or looking at the first turn or second turn, play first or go first, whatever thing. Like, I have no idea how long that is, but it feels like an eternity when that happens. Like, you could cut that time in half and still be reasonable. Now, there's some people that might say, oh, well, what if they're not there? Well, here's the deal, right? Why are you loading up a game and queuing for a match if you're not there? Like, you should not be accommodated for that. If you need to walk out and go to the toilet or something, or you are, you know, got to go answer the door, yeah, you know, don't leave the queue running. Leave the queue and wait for the person until you can come back. Yeah, 100% agree with that. Make the initial timeout faster. 100%. The permanent vintage cube / the cheaper vintage cube. That's obviously economically wise, Wizards would never do that. It's a big attraction event. But also, if we had it constantly, would it run the error of becoming basically a less of an attraction? Now, I don't truly believe that. I think we could probably put the vintage cube in because it's a very popular event. If they got rid of prizes for it and did it similar to draft, where you just play a lot less gold, but you don't get any major prizes for it, would that still be as popular? Maybe. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm not too keen on this one. I think having an event thing that brings players back is better than leaving it there permanently. I think like maybe we could decrease the rotation of it, but they're having a big event that's like, hey, you're a Lapsed Arena player, the Vintage Cube's back, why don't you come play Vintage for a bit? Yeah, I could see. We have daily challenges based on something like total turns instead of wins. Daily challenges are currently placed... Oh, they mean the win wheel, when you... the 15 wins a day. Right, yeah, okay. Because I was going to say, the daily things are based on the number of spells or lands you play. They are, or creatures you kill. They are based on you playing the game and having an experience. So, yeah, I think that would... I think wins is definitely the thing. We need... It's a competitive game. Having wins on there is a good thing to do. Particularly if you're not playing a ranked match, you want to play casual. You still want the incentive to win. Because, I mean... God, if you imagine if it's like you've got to take 20 turns... Everyone would just play like a grindy control deck or something that would just purposefully make you wait 20 turns. So, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to agree with this one. Let's see what else we have. More deck builder options. It's Magic Digital and you're trying to make the game more appealing. Let me run mock hand draws. Give me analysis of how often I'm pulling X or Y. Let me see the cards sit in my hand for multiple turns in a row. Let me run a deck against each other. And maybe even show me some popular cards that appear in other players' Brawl decks. Okay, so this is a Brawl one. But... definitely agree with that. Let me rewatch or save recordings of matches. Let me send matches with IDs to people like chess.com. Make the game more socially interactive. I think a guild system or like a tower app, or like in the tower app, where players can contribute their mission progress collectively towards a larger goal would be great. Imagine being in a guild with your LGS and working collectively for skins or cards. 100% agree with this. Again, the gathering aspect of Magic. That's one of the reasons we love it. That's one of the reasons why Commander is the most popular format in Magic. It's because there's a gathering. Okay, so let's break this down. More deck builder tools. I 100% agree with that. That should be something that is just a given. There should be... like Moxfield gives you the ability to look at a mock hand. Obviously, you can go against Sparky and whatever, that's fair. But there should be more of a statistical breakdown. Like I've said before, if you should just see how often a card comes up. How often are you drawing it? You should see how often you have your colors. I get to review a lot of this, reviewing a lot of my ranked gameplay and like make little adjustments to my decks because I see that. But that's because I have the recordings. Like MTGO has a replay function. Now it's not a good replay function and it sucks a lot of the time. But definitely, I do believe that 100%, yeah. Also, the guild thing would be awesome. Imagine like a guild war thing where you could sign up to certain guilds and, you know, you and your friends could work. Like, imagine giving that to an LGS and being like, hey, here's our guild pass and you can sign up like players to it and they can add to it. So when they win a match on Modo, on Arena, it goes into the pool, and then at the end of each season, it's like, hey, collectively, your guild... Yeah, 100%. Wendy's drive-thru definitely hit gold with that one. 100% would improve the arena thing. I think that would be the best thing. That yeah. We've seen a lot of good stuff here. Right, we're going on 20 minutes, so... Let's see... A system where you can rate an opponent, and if he ropes, you can flag him. If the player gets a low rating and flagged a lot, they get less leniency with roping. This is similar to the previous point, so I'm going to just add this. I do think a more efficient way of reporting, or like, here's the thing, we don't even need to report a system. Just the blacklist system that you can do on MTGO, where you can block a player so that you will not run into them. If you are in a lobby, so for example, if you block a player on MTGO, you will not see them hosting a lobby, and they will not see you hosting a lobby. Now, you could run into them in the wild in a competitive event, 100%, yeah. But for the casual play purposes, I think that'd be great. And I think in ranked, that would be awesome. If you run into a guy who ropes or spams emotes and you don't like him, you should be the ability to just go block. I don't want to run into this guy in the queue again. So, let's go down. A lot of people agreeing about the clock. A lot of people just saying, oh, here's put one here. Goodbye alchemy cards. Right. So, alchemy, I think, is going by the wayside. It's something of a failed experiment at this point. It's not working. We're seeing shadow drop of alchemy cards now that are just popping up occasionally. Historic is not a format at this point. It's something that when it becomes a arena event, people do it. It was fun with the jank and the crap that they had previously, but they basically made Timeless and cannibalized the player base there, because anyone who was playing Historic wanted to play busted stupid cards, and they made a format where you could play all the busted stupid cards. So yeah, I do think Alchemy, I don't think we're going to see the Alchemy cards that are there leave, because that would require Wizards to do a massive wildcard refund that they will not do. I'm thinking Alchemy as a format will be dropped and Alchemy cards will stop, and I think the cards that are on Arena will just be like a leftover of a previous time. They'll just be a random card that you'll run into in Brawl occasionally and go like, what the hell is that card? But yeah. Okay, so. Oh man. Then there's just a bunch of people saying, I agree with this. I just want to play Historic without Alchemy cards. I want no Alchemy cards in Brawl. And okay. A lot of hate for Alchemy. Okay, now let's do the final point here, which is the big one. I want the ability to play with 4 people in a single game. I want to play Commander. I want to play multiplayer format. I think that if we added Commander, it would be awesome. Okay. No, it wouldn't. So I'm going to say this before. I've made a whole video about this before, being online Commander is a trash format. That's 100% the case. But let me tell you why. When you play Commander with your friends or on Spell Table, and you're playing the game, everyone's locked in. There's the ability to discuss, there's all this other stuff. If we were to put that facility onto Modo, we would have 0 communication apart from emotes. So you can't communicate, you can't bluff, you can't make deals, you can't plead your case. And if an opponent isn't liking the game, they could just quit and go elsewhere. Now I know people will say, oh, they won't do that. Yeah, they will. Just log on to MTGO and play in the Commander queues and see what happens. I have had a game where literally an opponent quit because an opponent had a Sol Ring start, and he's like, yeah, he's got Sol Ring, I can't be bothered to play, he's going to run ahead of us, I'm quitting. Left the table. Then we have opponents that are like, oh, I mulligan to 5, I don't want to play, so they quit. There's players that will come in and be like, oh, well, you've countered my Commander 1 time, I'm going to quit. Like, you imagine when you play Brawl right now, how occasionally you'll have a player who will play their Commander, you'll counter it or kill it right away because it's really good, and then they'll just quit because they're expecting a Commander game. That's fine because your game ends there. Now imagine if you had to then stick around with the other 2 guys because that happened. Imagine you spend your key resources stopping a player from winning and then they just quit the game. So there's no counterbalance now, and you've got nothing against an opponent that can do other stuff. Commander is a paradox that exists because we believe Commander is a balanced format. Commander is the most unbalanced, unhinged, messed up, screwy game in Magic, and that's why we love it, because we hold it together through deals, pre-game discussions, Rule Zero conversations, a bracket system that's breaking its back trying to get people sorted on it. And ultimately, yeah, it's not going to work. Putting Commander... Also, and I know I said you can't change the economy. If the economy doesn't change, do you think you're going to want to craft 100 wildcards to make a commander deck that's then going to be played on multiplayer, and then you'll want to build another one? You're not going to get that facility. So that's the takes from the Magic Arena. Let me know what you would want to change to get this sorted. I went a bit longer than I thought. I was not expecting this much feedback, so yeah. Do you agree or disagree with these takes, and what would you add to Arena to improve the play experience? Remember, not the economy.